Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, August 7th, 2020, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a 2020 electoral map based purely on polling data. So the last time I did this was around the middle of June, and Joe Biden was at not too higher of a position than he is right now. But if we're looking at the numbers from June 17th, Joe Biden had a pretty strong lead over Donald Trump. Not saying that he doesn't right now, but the polls roughly had him ahead by 9%, 8-9% by the time that video was released. And if we take a look at the numbers now, they've narrowed up just a couple percentage points, but looking at the statewide races is what truly matters. The national average really doesn't matter other than the fact that it is a general indicator of how the country will go. But the Democratic Party has won the popular vote in 4 out of the 5 elections since the year 2000, despite only winning 2 of them. So looking at the numbers that we have nationwide, Biden looks like he's a clear favorite. But we're going to go state by state and characterize each individual state based off the data that we have. And for states that we don't see any data, for example, DC, Idaho, Illinois, we'll put them in where we expect them to vote on Election Day. So in Alabama, by the way, if you're not too sure what my ratings are, anything less than a percentage point is considered to be tilt. Anything between 1 and 5% is lean. Anything between 5 and 15% is likely. And anything 15% plus is considered safe. That's all in my description. There's a Q&A down there if you want to go ahead and see it. But no, scroll back up and watch the video. So looking at the state of Alabama. This one obviously goes to Donald Trump. We're not going to be focused too much on these battleground states, safe states, because they aren't too important. We don't have overall averages, so we're just going to go with the most recent poll from some of these states, but most of them at least have averages, which is really great. But looking at the most recent poll from the state of Alaska, I mean, even averaging it would make it even worse for President Trump. So it shows Trump ahead by 6%. That's actually where I rate Alaska a lot of the time. So Alaska goes into the likely characterization. In Arizona, Biden leads Trump here by 3.6%. We're going to talk about the overall implication near the end of the video, but we're going to go state by state so we're not wasting any time. In Arkansas, Trump is only ahead by 2%, but then again, this poll isn't exactly too reliable and very well will be completely disproven on Election Day. In California, Biden has a 30-point lead. I don't think that's surprising to anyone. Colorado, Biden has a 12.8% lead. In fact, he was actually at 17% throughout July, and then some recent polls came out with an 8 and 13-point lead for Vice President Biden. By no means is horrible or even bad by whatsoever. No standard would ever call it that, but it's a 13-point lead for the former vice president. So Colorado goes into the likely column, no longer safe. In Connecticut, this state most recently, Biden plus 23%. This state really isn't competitive. If you remember, Trump actually held a campaign rally here back in 2016, but it really didn't mean much. In Delaware, of course, Biden outperforming all the other Democratic hopefuls back then. Biden plus 16%. It's considered to be safe. It's his home state, served as a senator here. Doesn't matter. In Florida, it has narrowed up actually from recent numbers, but if we're looking here, it's a 5-point lead for Vice President Biden. Still pretty substantial, 5.1% actually, which means it's enough to be likely, just narrowly though, going into the Biden column. Looking at Georgia, Trump leads here by 0.9%, so that's less than a percentage point. We can characterize that as a tilt state. Hawaii has some data, Biden plus 27%. I'm surprised they're polling Hawaii, and if I believe they skipped Idaho and Illinois, and then we move on to Indiana. So Idaho, Illinois, Indiana. So Indiana is actually likely for the GOP based off those numbers. Idaho is safe, and then Illinois is safe for the Democratic Party. In Iowa, Trump is ahead here by 1.4%, so let's characterize that with a lean characterization. And then we look at Kansas. Trump is ahead by 10.7% here, so it's not safe. It's considered to be likely. Moving over to Kentucky, Trump is ahead by 16% here, despite that recent poll from Quinnipiac that shows Trump within striking, at least Biden within striking distance of Trump in that state. In Louisiana, we don't have data, but in Maine, Biden is ahead by double digits, 10.9% likely. And then Louisiana, I would consider to be safe for the GOP. In Maryland, we have a couple polls, nothing really important. Biden's ahead here by 24%. It doesn't really matter. When I say here, it's because I live in this state. So, and I also just said Maryland, so that makes sense. But looking at Massachusetts, 31.4% lead for Vice President Biden. Nothing to worry about for the Democrats there. In Michigan, Biden is ahead by 8%, so that's considered to be likely. This is a flip from 2016, as was Florida. In Minnesota, Biden actually leads by a smaller margin here than in Michigan, which I think is just really interesting. Looking at Mississippi, Trump is ahead in the most recent poll by 10%, and then the one before that by 11%, so that overall averages out to being a likely state by 10.5%. Missouri, a 5.7% margin for Joe Biden. So actually, that's pretty substantial that it's close. It was closer before around this time period, but some new data just got released. It shows Trump ahead by 7%. But then again, there was this poll that showed Biden ahead by 2%. That's really weird. Looking at Montana, this state definitely has narrowed up from where it was before. It was a 20-point lead throughout all of March and April, and then all of a sudden it dips, and then now it has gotten even closer. Trump leads Biden here by 8.9%. That's a likely state for the GOP. And in Nebraska, looking at the numbers here, Biden is ahead in the 2nd district, but they don't have any statewide polls, so we'll characterize it based off its statewide race. Actually, we need to go ahead and characterize Maine because we do have the poll from Maine's 2nd, and I believe Maine's 1st just got released. So actually, let's go back and do that before I make a mistake. Let's see, Maine's 2nd most recent, Trump +1, and then Maine 1st, Biden +31%. So Trump wins Maine's 2nd district. Biden solidly wins the 1st district. Now we can go back to Nebraska. Nebraska and Maine are very different than the rest of the electorate. They decide their electoral votes based off congressional district. And as you can see, they've only polled Nebraska's 2nd district. So Biden is ahead here by 11 and 7%. That's a likely characterization, but then the rest of the state is safe for the GOP. Okay, let's move past Nebraska. Moving on to Nevada, Biden is ahead here by 6%. That's a likely characterization. Going past Nevada, we have to look at New Hampshire. New Hampshire is actually a pretty substantial margin for Vice President Biden. We didn't characterize the District of Columbia, even though that's safe for the Democratic Party. In New Jersey, obviously, that would be considered to be safe for Joe Biden. New Mexico, Biden is ahead by 14, 12, and 9 all around. Likely characterization for Joe Biden in that state. Looking at New York, no real surprise there. Safe state. Used to be Donald Trump's home state. Now it's Florida. In North Carolina, Biden is ahead by 2.3%. So that's something to note as well. If my computer doesn't stop lagging, then it'll actually work. That goes to, I feel like we've missed a state. I wonder if we have. We'll see at the end, whichever state's not characterized. North Carolina goes to Joe Biden. In North Dakota, Trump leads by double digits here. No surprise by a safe characterization. And then we look at Ohio. Ohio actually has Biden ahead by 0.3%. That's actually really surprising. So that goes into the tilt Democratic column. Looking at Oklahoma, Trump is ahead by not double digits, safe margins here, 23%. Oregon doesn't have any polls. Pennsylvania does. So both of these are going to be Democratic states. Oregon's safe, and then Pennsylvania is likely for the Democrats. Moving over to South Carolina, we're skipping over Rhode Island and South Dakota. But in South Carolina, Trump only leads by a likely characterization. In Rhode Island, Biden has a pretty safe margin there. And then looking at South Dakota, Trump is absolutely carrying it by a safe rating. And then looking at Tennessee, we have another state, 11.7% for Donald Trump. That's a likely state. And then let's see Texas, which is pretty surprising. Trump is ahead here by 0.9% per the most recent poll from Trafalgar Group that I just saw today, actually, that shows Trump ahead by 6%. The margin is less than a percentage for Donald Trump. So good for President Trump that he's won back that state based off that data, but not a good sign that it's even remotely close. Trump leads Biden here by 11.4% in Utah. That's a likely characterization. We're skipping over Vermont because there's no data there. In why did I say Texas? Virginia, it's likely, and then Vermont is safe for the Democrats. In Washington, 26-point margin for Joe Biden makes sense. West Virginia, Trump plus 37%, and then Wisconsin. We can finish off with Biden leading by a likely margin. West Virginia and Wyoming are both safe. So, looking at this map, Biden wins the election with 352 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 186. This comes with Joe Biden flipping the states of Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Ohio, Florida, and Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, while retaining every single state Hillary Clinton carried in 2016. This is a very trouncing victory over Donald Trump. It's above 350 electoral votes, and it is pretty substantial that Texas and Georgia are actually close. And I made a video yesterday actually talking about the GOP erosion of support in these safe GOP states. You can see it here very clearly. Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, Indiana, Kansas, Utah, Montana, all safe states from 2016 now rated as likely for the GOP. Actually, South Carolina and Alaska were not safe, but they were 14-point margins, so very close to safe. They have all now narrowed down. If we take a look, some very notable close races in Georgia and Texas, less than a percentage. In 2016, the polling data was off in favor of the Democratic Party in both of these states. Unfortunately for President Trump, that means if Texas is as close as it is right now, and the polls were just as wrong as 2016 on Election Day, Joe Biden wins this state. Same thing goes in Georgia. And looking at the rest of these battleground states, I think the only state that actually is wrong, that would be wrong, the only two states, sorry, that would be, really wrong based off the 2016 data are Ohio and Wisconsin. Outside of that, the margin is too great for Donald Trump to overcome if he is, to outperform the same way he did just 4 years ago. So looking at this map, I'm not saying this is my election prediction by any means. This is a pure data-based map that's given based off all of the polling data that we have compiled. I know there are some outliers. There are some states with very few polls, which is why, some of the states such as Arkansas may seem closer than before. But looking at the overall averages, especially with states with time periods where it's changed and shifted over time, we saw a huge shift in support from Donald Trump to Joe Biden, or from Donald Trump into the undecided column. We see this in a lot of states where we're seeing, California safe for Biden by 30%, and then Alabama, which is only a 19-point margin for Donald Trump, despite them roughly voting the same exact, at least partisan, same exact margin in 2016. So we're seeing Donald Trump lose a lot of support in some key states that is probably going to be very difficult for him to win in swing states if he's not winning in solid GOP states, but only time will tell what Donald Trump will do before Election Day. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord that you can go ahead and join. There's also a video you can go ahead and watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 election predictions. If you want, you can just go ahead and scroll through all of those if you just want to see how I've predicted the election in the past. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.